A very good morning, students. Myself, Ms. Bhagyashree, welcome you all on the behalf of Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation Education Department. And the topic that we are going to study today is reflection of light. So, in today's lecture, we will study about what is reflection, the type of reflection of point source on a plane mirror, reflection of extended source on a plane mirror. Now, in our day-to-day life, we see all these examples, the examples that are being seen in this slide. So the 9 most commonly seen example of reflection of light in our day-to-day life with naked eye are as follows. The first example is reflection of light in mirror. The second one is reflection of light in spherical mirror. Third one is reflection of light in water pool. Fourth is reflection of light on a polished surface. Fifth one is object seen due to reflection of light. The sixth one is glowing of stars. Seventh one is going to be lighting of moon at night. Eighth one is reflection from luminous object. And last but not the least is ninth one, that is reflection from non-luminous objects. So students, these are the examples of reflection that we see in our day-to-day life. The most commonly is the reflection of light in the mirror, which we all see. So one question arises, why do we see object? Now here in this slide, we can see a girl is looking at the tree. There are 3 things involved in this picture. The first one is the sun, the second one is the tree, and the third one is the girl itself who is trying to see the tree. Now, why the girl is able to see the tree? Let's find out the answer. If we see sun itself is acting as a luminous object. Luminous objects are the objects which are able to produce the light on their own. So what happens is sun emits light, definitely in all possible direction. This light falls on the tree. Now, one thing that must be noted over here, the tree here is a non-luminous object. Non-luminous objects are the objects which are not able to produce light on their own. But the moment the sunlight falls on the tree itself acts as a luminous object. And definitely, this light that is coming from the sun on the tree gets bounced back. Okay, you can also say it is being thrown away from the tree. Ultimately, this light enters this girl's eye and the girl is able to make out that there is a tree situated at some distance. Now, we will see detailed explanation of this. We see that the tree gets reflection in water. It happens as follow. What happens is the ray of light falls on the tree itself becomes a luminous object, and the luminous object easily gets reflected in a smooth surface. Here, what happens is the luminous object is nothing but the sun. The non-luminous object is going to be the tree. But the moment the sun rays are being incident on the tree, the tree itself becomes a luminous object. Now, what if a person is being standing in a dark room and he or she wants to see or want to find out a thing in the dark room? Now, suppose if there is an apple placed in a dark room. Now, since the room is dark, the person will not be able to see because of the absence of light. But what happens is, what if a table lamp is being kept in front of this apple? What will happen is the rays of light that are being emitted from the bulb will be incident on the apple. And similarly, what would happen is apple itself was the non-luminous object. Now it would become a luminous object for some time due to the rays that are being coming from the table lamp. These rays will be bounced back by the apple in all possible directions. Now what happens is the person enters the room and he sees the reflection. You can also say the image of the apple in the mirror. Why? Because the mirror is being placed in front of the apple. So the person will be able to make out that there is an apple beneath the mirror. So how reflection is possible for seeing an object? Let's suppose the object is being placed in dark room where there is no source of light. Now the bulb is being placed in the room. Now you can see the object very easily, but how this happens? This happens due to the reflection of light through object. Okay, so this is how the explanation can be done. In the absence of light, we are not able to see any object. Why? Because there is no reflection. Reflection occurs only when there is a source of light. The source of light can be a natural source of light like sun, and it can be also an artificial source of light, like in this case, we are seeing a table lamp, which is having a bulb. So, how do we see things? When light hits something, it bounces back. And when this bounced light reaches our eye, we see things. This is why we need light to see something. Definitely, we are able to see the things around us, the trees, the sky, the clouds, the vehicles, the road, okay, the path. Why? Because it is because of sunlight. Sun is the natural source of light. Definitely, the rays of light coming from the sun are being incident on each and every object that is being there surrounding us. Okay, and this light gets reflected back from the object and it enters our eye. This is the reason why we are able to see the object. Now here, suppose if a person is being standing, okay, near the pool of water, and he or she is able to see his reflection on the surface of water. Now, here we will see a detailed explanation of this. What happens is, suppose if the rays of light are coming from the sun are incident on the surface of the water. You can also say these rays of light are being approaching the surface of the water. So the ray of light which approaches the surface of the water is called as the incident ray. You can show the direction. Of course, I can show the direction of the incident ray. Now what happens is, here the ray of light gets bounced back. Why? Because there is a surface which is totally, you can say, planar. Okay, the surface is actually plane, and this is the reason why the ray of light gets bounced back. This ray of light that is being bounced back is being called as the reflected ray. The direction of the reflected ray is shown like this. So we are seeing two types of rays over here. A ray of light which is coming from the sun and it is incident on the surface of the water. It is called as an incident ray. The direction of the incident ray is, you can say, it is towards the surface of the water. And when there is a bouncing back of the same ray, the same incident ray, we call it as a reflected ray. The direction of the reflected ray is shown like this. So once this reflected ray reaches our eye, we are able to make out what kind of surface or what kind of object is being there. So what is reflection of light? Reflection is a natural phenomenon of light that separates the light wave to go through a straight line. Means it is due to the reflection that a beam of light changes its path. In other words, the bouncing back of light wave in the same medium when strike with any surface, whether it is plane, curved, or rough. Students, just now we saw an example of a plane surface, that is the reflection of light from the surface of the water. For a time being, definitely I'll go back to the next slide, the previous slide. So here we saw a reflection from a plane surface. In our day-to-day life, definitely we are standing in front of plane mirror. We are able to see our own image. It is because of reflection. Okay, again, the surface is going to be a plane mirror, a plane surface. But the reflection can occur on a curved surface also and on a rough surface also. In the latter part of this lecture, we will see how the reflection occurs on a curved, or you can also say rough surface. Now one question is coming over here. What are the different type of reflection of light? There are actually many type of reflection, but we are going to see only the main type of reflection in today's lecture. Definitely the types of reflection that are being covered in our textbook. So the type of reflection of light, there are many type of reflection of light in daily life. But we discuss only most common and relevant type. The first type of reflection is called as a regular reflection of light. The second type of reflection is called as a irregular or diffusion of light. And the third type of reflection is called as a multiple reflection of light. We'll speak in Hindi for few time. See, रिफ्लेक्शन जो होते हैं वो तीन टाइप के यहाँ पे हम लोग आज पढ़ने वाले हैं. सबसे पहला जो रिफ्लेक्शन होगा उसे रेगुलर रिफ्लेक्शन बोलते हैं हम लोग. सेकेंड टाइप जो होगा उसे इरेग्युलर या डिफ्यूजन रिफ्लेक्शन ऑफ लाइट बोलेंगे. और तीसरा वाला जो रिफ्लेक्शन होगा उसे मल्टीपल रिफ्लेक्शन ऑफ लाइट कहेंगे. हम लोग ये तीनों रिफ्लेक्शन आज के लेक्चर में एक एक करके पढ़ने वाले हैं. तो चलिए शुरुआत करते हैं. The first and foremost reflection is the regular reflection. If a ray of light falls on the smooth surface and the light wave gets reflected only in one direction, then it will be called as a regular reflection. Regular reflection of light can also be defined as the light wave falls on a polished surface and gets reflected in such a way that all the ray of light will be parallel to each other. To illustrate this reflection, we will see this diagram in detail. Now, suppose if there is a polished surface, I am showing it with the spotlight. This is called as a polished surface. What happens is the incident ray of light are coming and they are hitting this polished surface. Now what happens is a polished surface reflects most of the light. You can also say it is bouncing back most of the light which is being incident on it. So what happens is these rays are being reflected from the surface of from the plane surface. Now, one thing that must be noted over here, see students, the incident rays were parallel to each other. The reflected rays are again parallel to each other. If you all have noticed one point that must be noted, all the reflected rays are having the same angle of reflection. This is the again reason you can say we see this as a regular reflection. Now, once the person sees such kind of reflected ray, he will perceive that the surface is going to be a plane one. This is called as a regular reflection. In regular reflection, the reflected rays are always parallel to each other, similar to the incident ray. As the incident ray were parallel, definitely the inclination all the incident ray was same. In the similar way, the reflected ray again will be inclined at the same angle to each other. This is called as a regular reflection. हम लोग यहाँ पे अगर रेगुलर रिफ्लेक्शन की बात करेंगे तो आप देख पाएंगे एक दूसरे के पैरेलल हैं. अगर इंसिडेंट रे का एंगल भी आप सरफेस के साथ देखेंगे तो वो सेम ही होगा. बट जैसे ही ये प्लेन सरफेस के ऊपर इंसिडेंट होंगे, ये प्लेन सरफेस क्या करेगा, ये सारे जो इंसिडेंट रे हैं उनको बाउंस बैक करेगा, रिफ्लेक्ट करेगा. और अगर आप देखेंगे ये सारे रिफ्लेक्टेड रे क्या है, एक दूसरे के पैरेलल है. सो ये टाइप का रिफ्लेक्शन होने वाला है रेगुलर रिफ्लेक्शन. द सेकेंड टाइप, here we are seeing a slide where you can see a pool of water and there is a mountain surrounding this pool of water. You can also say it is a small water body. Now, if you see the surface of the water is still. So this surface is actually acting like a plane surface. The surface of the water is acting like a plane surface. Now, what happens is when there is an object placed, okay, or you can also say the object over here is mountain. Okay, its reflection you can see here in the pool of water. If you see carefully, each and every detail of this picture is being seen as a reflection on the surface of the water. The main reason for this is going to be definitely the reflected rays are parallel to each other. This is the reason why we are able to see each and every detail of the scenery surrounding this water body in the same manner on the surface of the water. So this is the example of regular reflection. The next type of reflection that we will now study is irregular or diffuse reflection of light. If a ray of light falls on a rough surface, then after reflection of light, wave gets diffused in all directions. Irregular reflection of light can also be defined as the ray of light falls on the surface that is not polished. Then after reflection, it will bounce back in the same medium, but not each ray will be parallel to each other. Now, as compared to the regular reflection, now we will study irregular reflection with the help of the diagram. Students, we are having a rough surface over here. You can see the unevenness of the surface. Such a surface would be called as a rough surface. Now you can see even in this case, the rays of light are being parallel to each other. Okay, the incident ray are being parallel to each other and they are incident on this rough surface. But if you carefully observe, when the ray gets reflected from this rough surface, the reflected rays are being, spread in all possible direction. They are not at all parallel to each other. This is the reason why such type of reflection would be called as a irregular or diffuse reflection. You can see the rays of light are not parallel to each other. Irregular reflection वो होने वाला है जहां पे इंसिडेंट रे तो सारे पैरेलल में थे, बट अगर आपने सरफेस की तरफ ध्यान दिया होगा, ये सरफेस क्या है, रफ सरफेस है. सो होगा क्या, जो कोई भी रिफ्लेक्टेड रे होने वाले हैं वो सारे डायरेक्शन में फैलने वाले हैं, और जिसकी वजह से हम लोगों को जो इमेज प्राप्त होगी वो कुछ इस तरह से होने वाली है. Students, look at this picture carefully. Again, we are having a pool of water. But if you carefully see this pool of water, you can see the surface is not plain. Okay, this is not a plain surface of water. So what happens is all the things that are being surrounding this pool of water, definitely you can see the reflection, but the reflection is not proper. The image that is being formed on this surface of water is not clear. It is not at all distinct at all. You can also say the image is distorted. The image is diffused. You can see the colors are being diffused. You are not able to make out which part is being seen on the surface of the water with respect to what you have above the surface of the water. So this is the best example of diffusion reflection. This is again going to be called as a diffused image. The image is not at all clear. So this type of reflection is called as a diffusion reflection or irregular reflection. Third type of reflection that we will now study is the multiple reflection of light. Just now we saw reflection from a single plane surface or a single, you can also say, rough surface. But what if there are more than two surfaces that are being polished or that are going to be reflecting one? When a ray of light falls on a surface, whether it is rough or polished, and surfaces are placed with many other polished or rough surface in such a way that after reflection of light from one surface, the reflected ray falls on the other surface, and again reflected ray of second surface falls on the third surface, so on and so forth, then this type of reflection is called as multiple reflection. In short way, multiple reflection of light can be defined as when a ray of light falls on the surface 1 and then after reflection, the reflected ray of the surface 1 falls on the surface 2 and so on, then these type of reflection are called as multiple reflection. Now students, towards right hand side of this slide, we are having a picture. We'll see a detailed explanation on this. Suppose if I'm having two mirrors over here. This is the first mirror, this is the second mirror. And what if I place a laser light over here? What would happen? The ray of light emitting from the laser will be incident on the first mirror. The first mirror being definitely a plane surface, these rays will be reflected from the first mirror and they will be incident on the second mirror. Now what happens is these reflected rays from the first mirror are acting as an incident ray for which mirror? For the second mirror. So incident ray from the first mirror are being incident on the second mirror. Now again at this point, the ray of light will suffer bouncing back, will suffer reflection of light. So the ray of light are being reflected here like this. So this is the best example of multiple reflection. See how many times the reflection is being done. This is the first time, this is the second time. If I place a mirror again over here, then again reflection will occur, so on and so forth. जो तीसरे टाइप का रिफ्लेक्शन होने वाला है उसे हम लोग कहने वाले हैं मल्टीपल रिफ्लेक्शन ऑफ लाइट. अगर आप ध्यान से देखेंगे मल्टीपल रिफ्लेक्शन ऑफ लाइट को, तो यहाँ पे हम लोगों ने दो मिरर्स लिए हुए हैं. एक लेजर लाइट की मदद से अगर मैंने एक लाइट यहाँ से लेजर से छोड़ी तो वो क्या होगी? वो फर्स्ट मिरर पे इंसिडेंट होगी. डेफिनेटली इस मिरर में उसे रिफ्लेक्शन फेस करना पड़ेगा एंड यहाँ पे रिफ्लेक्शन आ जाएगा. तो मोमेंट ये रिफ्लेक्शन हुआ, ये वापस रे ऑफ लाइट दूसरे मिरर पे इंसिडेंट हो रहा है. सो यहाँ पर भी क्या होने वाला है? यहाँ पर भी एक रिफ्लेक्शन होने वाला है. तो आप देख सकते हैं एक से ज्यादा बार एक रे ऑफ लाइट, वही रे ऑफ लाइट रिफ्लेक्ट हुआ है. इसकी वजह से हम इसे मल्टीपल रिफ्लेक्शन ऑफ लाइट करके कहते हैं. We will now see a short introduction to a scientist. The German scientist Justus von Liebig coated the plain surface of a piece of ordinary glass with silver metal and made the first mirror. Such a mirror is being called as a silvered glass mirror. हम लोग आईना रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में इस्तेमाल करते हैं. डेफिनेटली जो आईना है उसके खोजकर्ता जो है उनका नाम है जस्टिस वॉन लीबिग. जो पहला आईना उन्होंने बनाया था वो एक महज कांच का टुकड़ा था जिसका बैक साइड सिल्वर से कोट किया हुआ था. So students, what is mirror? In scientific language, it is a surface which reflects light and creates clear image is called as a mirror. Definitely a plain mirror is the one which we all use in our day-to-day life. Okay, we need polished surface for reflecting light. This is because polished surface absorb less light and so maximum light is reflected. See, whole lecture I have been saying the surface has to be polished, the surface has to be polished. Our main motto for a perfect reflection is the light has to be totally reflected back. This is the reason why we are making the surface polished. In everyday life, we are being using plain mirror. But let me tell you students, there are other type of mirror too. Basically, when we say in technical term, there are two type of mirror. The first one is plain mirror and the second one is a spherical mirror. But in spherical mirror, there are two subtypes. There are two more subtypes. The first one is convex mirror and the second one is going to be the concave mirror. In today's lecture, we will basically focus on plain mirror only. The spherical mirrors, convex and concave, we will study in the next lecture. So here, students, you can see how a mirror is being made. Okay, it is simply a piece of glass. At the back side, we are coating it with aluminum or silver. You can also say with silver nitrate also. And finally, it is coated with red color. In some cases, we are coating it with blue color also. This is how a proper mirror is being made. Now we will see the rays falling on a mirror normal to its surface. The answer to our question lies here only. We all see ourselves in mirror in day-to-day life. We'll see how the image will be formed. Here, a plain mirror is being shown. This black line is the front part of the mirror, and these blue slanting line is the back side of the mirror, the one which is coated with aluminum or silver. Now, what happens is the ray of light are being, approaching the plane surface, or you can also say the reflecting surface of this plane mirror. Now, what happens is these are called as the incident ray. Once the incident ray are being incident on the reflecting surface, the ray of light suffer bouncing back. So if you carefully notice over here, the rays will be reflected back along the same path. But if you carefully look at the reflected ray, the direction of the reflected ray is going to be opposite to that of the incident ray. So, students, we can say the light falling perpendicularly on a mirror is reflected back in a perpendicular direction. Perpendicular means it is making an angle of 90 degrees with the plane surface of the mirror. So you can see the path that is being traversed by the incident ray and the reflected ray is going to be the same. Now, what if the surface is plane, but you are having a point object? We'll now see a detailed explanation. We are having a plane mirror M1, M2. The black line is the front part. This is going to be the front side of the mirror, and the slanting lines are going to be the back side of the mirror. Now, suppose if we are having a point object O situated at some distance from the plane surface of the mirror. The incident rays are OR1 and OR2. The incident ray OR1 is being reflected as R1S1. The incident ray OR2 is reflected as R2S2. Now, I want to make out where exactly the image will be formed. So what I do now is I simply produce these reflected ray in the backward direction. These reflected ray meet at point O dash. So you can say the image O dash is being formed at the back side of the image. If you have noticed the distance at which the object was being placed, at the same distance the image will be formed, but the image will be formed at the back side of the mirror. Definitely at the same distance. So here, students, we say the reflected ray do not actually meet, hence such an image is called as a virtual image. The perpendicular distance of the image from the mirror is equal to the perpendicular distance of the source You can also say of the object from the mirror. The next topic that we will now see is image of an extended source formed by a mirror. Extended source means you can see a pencil over here as PQ. P is the tip of the pencil and Q is the back of the pencil. Now what happens is, if we draw this incident ray on the mirror M1, M2, and if we produce the same incident ray in the backward direction, definitely the distance at which this tip of the pencil is situated, definitely at the same distance at the backside, if I produce a point, I'll get a point as P1. The same thing, I can do it for this also. The backside of this pencil, definitely the distance at which it is situated in front of the mirror, at the same distance, I can mark a point as Q1 or Q dash. So ultimately, I will be able to draw the image of this pencil PQ. The image is being named as P1 Q1. Now, one thing that must be noted over here is all the points that are being situated on this pencil will act as, a point source of light emitting the light. Okay, so similarly, whenever these rays of light will be incident at the same distance, you can draw the point at the backside of the mirror. So the image will be formed exactly as this object, pencil PQ. So what we studied it on or in all these examples is the image that is being formed is always erect and upright. It is virtual. It is laterally inverted. It lies along a line joining the object and the surface which is perpendicular to the surface. The size equal to object. It is located far behind the reflecting surface as the object is in front of it. The image that is being formed by a plane mirror is always upright. Definitely, it is also called as erect. When you stand in front of a mirror, your image is definitely, your head is on the place of head, image head, and again your foot is at the place of the image of the foot. Okay, it is not at all inverted. It is virtual. Why? Because the image is being formed at the backside of the plane mirror. Okay, and definitely whatever things you are being placing in front of the mirror, the same size of image will be formed. Now students, let us have a quick recap of what all things that we studied in our lecture. We started off with a simple example, that is how reflection take place. आज के लेक्चर में हम लोग ने एक सिंपल एग्जाम्पल से शुरू किया था, रिफ्लेक्शन क्या होता है। फिर हम लोगों ने इसका डिटेल एक्सप्लेनेशन देखा कि रिफ्लेक्शन क्यों होता है। एक ल्यूमिनस ऑब्जेक्ट से जब भी रे ऑफ लाइट निकलती है, वो नॉन ल्यूमिनस ऑब्जेक्ट पर गिरने के बाद डेफिनेटली वो लाइट क्या हो जाती है, बाउंस बैक हो जाती है और इस तरह से हमें दिखाई देता है। So we saw how we see things. It is basically the bouncing of the ray of light. The bounced beam is called as a reflected ray. Okay, the source is always going to emit ray of light. These ray of light are being falling on the surface. Those ray of light are being called as incident ray, and the bounced back rays from the surface that is polished or plane is called as a reflected ray. Then we saw definition of reflection of light. Then we saw type of reflection. Basically, there are 3 types of reflection that we saw. We saw each and every reflection in detail. The first one was regular reflection. Second one was irregular reflection. And the third one was multiple reflection of light. We saw a short introduction about a scientist, definitely, who invented plane mirror. We saw types of mirrors. There are basically 2 types of mirror. The first one is plane mirror. Second one is spherical mirror. Spherical mirror is again going to have 2 subtypes, that is concave and convex. Then we saw rays falling on a plane mirror normal to its surface. Image of a point source formed by a mirror. Image of an extended source formed by a mirror. We saw characteristic of the image formed by a plane mirror. This is going to be an assignment of today's lecture. Explain image of an extended source formed by a plane mirror. Write the characteristic of image formed by the plane mirror. And the third question for assignment is going to be explain image of a point source formed by a plane mirror. So there is a short multiple choice question. How many types of reflections are there? Definitely, we all know, we studied 3 types of reflection: regular, irregular, and multiple. So the answer is going to be option number 3. A well-defined image of an object is called as dash. Definitely, we get a well-defined image of an object when it is going to be a regular type of reflection. So the option number 1 is going to be the correct option. Next question is, a colored and distorted image of object is called as dash. We get a colored and distorted image in irregular reflection. So again, here in this case, the option number 1 is going to be the correct option.